What is up, all my geeks and gamers? TechGeek1019 here, coming at you with another VirtualBox tutorial. Today I will be covering how to install OS X Yosemite in VirtualBox. So somebody asked me to do this because Xcode did not work in Mavericks because of the new version, and they wanted the new version. However, it did not work in Mavericks, so they wanted to know how to do Yosemite. So that is what I'm going to show you guys today. So first off, you obviously want to get an ISO of Yosemite. I got mine from Hackintosh.Z. You guys, the link will be in the descriptions if you want to go grab that. Or I will post an ISO of my own from Hackintosh.Z, but not in torrent instead, just in case you guys don't want to use BitTorrent or uTorrent. Because, you know, it's kind of dangerous, but I will have that in the description. So once you get that, you're going to go open VirtualBox, get the latest version of VirtualBox, which I believe is 4.20 or so. I believe we could check. The newest, this is version 4.3.26. That is the newest version, okay? So we're going to get off right away, and we are going to do a new VirtualBox, and we're going to name it Yosemite. And it is going to be a Mac OS X, and it is going to be Mac OS X 64-bit, and that is that. So then we hit next. I am going to allocate 4 GB of RAM. You can allocate as much as you want, but I have 4 GB to spare, so I will do that. Wait, do I have 4 GB to spare? Let me just make sure. That's kind of cutting it close, so I actually want to go back, and I am actually only going to give it 3 GB, which is 30 something. Now let's just leave it at 2, whatever, I don't care. We're going to create a virtual hard drive, a VDI, of dynamically allocated, and I'm going to make it 40, just because it runs better. Okay, once you do that, you're going to want to go into the settings, and under system, you want to disable or uncheck enable EFI, because we don't need that. In the display, I'm just going to crank it all the way up. In storage, in the empty thing, we're going to want to grab our ISO. I have it right here. And everything else will stay the same. Make sure this USB is enabled. So, before we boot this thing up, Mac OS X does not work on Haswell-based computers. So what we will have to do is close VirtualBox, open up a command prompt, and we will first cd to our VirtualBox folder, which is in Program Files, Oracle, and VirtualBox. So I just drag that in there, hit enter, and then in here I'm going to paste a command that will be in the description. And basically what it's doing is it's changing the cpuidset inside of, and right here you're gonna replace the name of your VirtualBox. It is changing it to trick VirtualBox into thinking that your CPU is an Ivy Bridge CPU, which is what Mac OS X runs on. So we're just going to do that and open up VirtualBox. Again, that command will be in the description. So let's start up our VirtualBox then. Here we go. Let it boot up. And there we are. We are going to boot into -V into the installer, as you can see on the screen. And we shall let it run. As you can see, it'll say Model OX3A, which is the CPU Ivy Bridge family model number, basically. So it'll start to boot up here, go through a bunch of stuff to boot into the installer. Go through this code pretty quickly. It'll use the 64-bit boot cache playlist, go through all of this stuff here for the launch stuff. As you can see, don't worry about any of this. These are not errors. This is expected here. Even though it says warning and whatever, blah blah blah, all that stuff. That doesn't mean anything. That is just expected. That's how it boots up. So we'll just give it a second to boot up here. And it'll say these things, don't worry about them. This is also as planned. And it'll go into this stuff. Once it says IO Bluetooth HCI controller start completed, you will see a Mac mouse appear on the black screen here. And we will wait for, which means it's done. And it'll boot into the installer in just a second here. Give it a minute, and it'll boot right into our Mac OS X installer. So, it'll give it a second. There we go. That's gonna, alright, there you go. Okay. So I'm going to use English. You can change your language, whatever. And it'll go in a second. There we go. You'll say Hackintosh zone. Yup. Continue. We will agree. And as you can see, there's no disks here. So we go to disk utility. Utility is at the top, and then disk utility. And then what we are going to do is we are going to make a partition of our virtual drive. So we go to the erase tab and name it whatever you want. Mine is going to be the standard Macintosh HD. And we will hit erase and then erase again. And it'll erase the thing, unmount the disk, and then partition it. Hopefully, there we go. Partitioning now. It's going to take a little longer for me, obviously, because I'm recording. Oh, and yeah, you want to make sure that this is Mac OS Extended Journaled, just to let you know. Okay, we will select this. If you want to customize stuff, you can look in that, but we're just going to go with the standard installation. And it will say about 16 minutes remaining, and we just have to give it some time to install. I'll speed this part up right here just so that you guys don't have to sit through it, and I'll be back once we get to the next part. Alright guys, so it may not look like it is finished, but it is in fact finished. Now this seems to be a little bug in this ISO that it gets to 2 minutes remaining and then it just stops. Now once you see that it has stopped moving and this little icon down here, this hard drive icon, once it stops having any activity at all, which you can see it doesn't, we will hit right Control R in order to reset the entire VirtualBox. So we're going to hit reset, and it will reset the VirtualBox. And as you can see, our disk is the second thing in the list. Now, we are still not done with this process. For some reason, it's a little buggy. So what we have to do is we have to boot it into -S, which is single user mode, -V, which is verbose mode, and -N, which I believe allows you to run a couple bash scripts, which is what we want to do. So we will hit enter. It will begin to load up our verbose mode, and then there will be a few commands that we will need to run in order to get this to complete itself. So Let's let it load up here. It will get to a certain point and stop. There we go. And as you can see, it says it has two things. To mount the root device as read-write, we'll have to run the first one and then the second one. Now, there's a couple other commands that we will have to write in between, but let's just start off with the first one, /sbin/fsck-fy. That is basically checking the volumes and making sure that it is a correct volume and just doing stuff like that. Checking catalog file, checking extent overflow files. So it'll do a couple things, multi-linked files, it'll check a couple things, and then it'll tell you that it is fine. And then we will run that second line of code right up there to mount the drive onto our virtual box. Alright, looks like it's almost done. Oh, it looked like the volume needed a little bit of a repair, so it repaired the volume, and there you go. The volume was modified. Perfect. Okay. So the next one is /sbin/mount-uw/. And it will create that there. There we go. Uh-oh. I think I messed that up a little bit. And then we will run that same script again. There you go. Alright. So the next one we will do is we are cding to /.os, and then if you hit tab, it'll complete with install_sandboxPath, and then we will do scripts, and then /. So we cd to that, and then you type ls. This will run a bunch of things. It'll load the Hackintosh zone stuff. Now the next thing we will do is we are cding to Hackintosh.zone, capital Z, dot P, uppercase P, lowercase o, and then hit tab. It'll say postscript dot and then a little ID. This is specific to everyone, which is why you need to hit tab. It's not going to be the same ID, so make sure you hit tab after you do PO. Okay, and then we hit enter. And it's cd to that, and then we do ./postinstall. And it will go through a couple post-installation things here. And this will take a couple minutes, so once again, I'll speed this up, and I'll be back when it completes. Alright guys, so it finished the code that for the post installation. So now the next thing we will type is exit, as it will exit the bash script and resume booting into the OS. So don't worry about all that stuff up there about invalid signatures. That's all fine. So we will just continue. Rebuilding caches after update takes a couple minutes, so I will just explain some stuff. So once we are completed, there will be a few optimizations that we will have to go through. However, that will be a separate video about optimizations and just other stuff into basically roughing out the edges of your VirtualBox. So I will go over that in another video, but for now I will just wait for this and show you guys that it does in fact work and does boot into the OS. Also, all of these commands that I just typed just now will be in the description for you guys to copy and paste. That way you don't have to write it all out or whatever, even though a lot of it can be completed by hitting tab. So tab is the complete line thing basically, and that's what it will do. So we're just waiting for these caches to rebuild, and then it will get on its way into booting into the actual login and creating account screen, basically, just to set up your Mac. There you go. It'll say waiting for DSMOS, and it will then keep going once it gets it, which it'll get it in a couple seconds, hopefully, and it will boot into our login screen once it is finished. So since we are nearing the end of the video, oh wait, here it comes. It is starting to get there, and no interval found, whatever. Yeah, CPU, whatever. DSMOS has arrived, and the Bluetooth controller is completed, and your mouse shows up. There she is. Your mouse shows up. Give it a second to boot onto the screen. That is required to boot into your Mac now that we are done. So it'll come up in a second here. Just give it a minute. Alright, there we go. We are now on the welcome screen. So I'm going to say United States. I'm going to say a US keyboard. Don't transfer any information. I'm not going to sign into my Apple ID right now, but you can if you would like to. Hit agree, and agree again. Enter your full name, Anthony Triolo, and we'll do that. Anthony, whatever. I'll create a password. There we go, and leave that. Let it create. I'm not going to send the diagnostics just because this is not an actual Mac, and it will set up the Mac in a very short amount of time. It is pretty much set up, and it will go to the desktop right now. Alright guys, so here you go. We are on the desktop. It took a little longer than I thought, so I just cut, and we are here. However, I have experienced a couple times where it does freeze on the setting up screen, so you can just restart your virtual machine, boot into the disk drive. Oh, wants to configure the keyboard. Boot into the disk drive in verbose mode, and when it gets to the verbose and single user mode, and when it gets to the bash script, just hit exit and just let it boot. So just do that. I'm gonna do this, that one, done. All right, so that's set up the keyboard. As you can see, we are now in our desktop. Something will come up over here that it's like rebuilding like the stuff or whatever. That usually takes a minute or so to pop up. If it doesn't pop up, then we'll just move on. There it is. See, warning, do not restart, whatever. It is configuring your Hackintosh. It'll go through a couple things, and then it'll say it's done, and then you can do whatever and move on. So as I said earlier, I will be posting another video soon about optimization, as well as other stuff just to rough out the edges. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped you guys a lot. I hope you guys enjoy using Yosemite on your PC. If you do, be sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. We're building a great army here, and it would be great if we could continue the support. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. Peace!